Cool, so I'll kick off. So just thank you so much for inviting me along to speak to you today. It's really important sharing the work that we do at Alan Nolan, explain to you a little bit around what blood cancers are and the treatments and how you can really help to save the lives of people with blood cancers. So introduce myself first off. So my name's Alice Hurst and I am Senior Recruitment Manager at Alan Nolan. I've worked for Alan Nolan for 10 years this year. It was actually 10 years a couple of weeks ago. I've always worked in our donor recruitment function at Alan Nolan. So that role is all around ensuring that we have amazing potential people happy to donate their stem cells to patients in need and go on and provide those treatments to them. So I'll explain a lot more about that in depth shortly. But just to give you a little bit of a heads up of, what today is going to involve, hopefully you're going to come away with a basic understanding of blood cancers and blood disorders and the treatments that people with blood cancers and blood disorders might need. But really importantly, I'd say the last slide that I'm going to talk to you about is the most important. It's how you can help us and essentially why we're here talking to you today. What I can't do, so I'm not a medical professional. I can't answer any medical questions. I can absolutely signpost you to the best people to get those answers from. So please ask. And I know sometimes when I do present and we start talking about blood cancers and blood disorders, people might have some personal questions that they'd like to ask. And I'm not able to answer those in a group setting, but I'm more than happy to take any inquiries or any questions afterwards and make sure they're fielded in the best way. So that's a little bit what I can do and what I can't do. And then I'm going to move on now to talk to you about why we're here talking to you. So you'll see, first point in that slide is our target demographic for my team at Alan Nolan when we look at recruiting potential stem cell donors are people aged 16 to 30. But you are absolutely key in this. You are the people that give those people confidence and the knowledge to make this decision. And this is why it's really important that you listen and you understand and ask any questions you have about what I'm talking to you about today. So there might be your children, there might be your grandchildren, nieces, nephews, just all those young people in your life that you can make a real difference to. And we're here because we've really learned that adult consultation is really necessary in all communities, but really in particular the Black community. And I love these proverbs that were shared with me, the Gambian proverb of an adult squatting sees farther than a child on the treetop, the African proverb of words for elders are words of wisdom. I think they really encapsulate why it's so important that we're here talking to you today about how we can encourage young people to think about being potential donors to save people's lives. So I'm going to introduce Alan Nolan blood cancers and ask your queries and concerns around donation. I'm going to ask you to support our mission by reducing death in young Black men in particular by taking part in our registration effort. And this is a biggie. We'd really need 2 volunteers to be a sounding board. We're producing future messaging at Alan Nolan. We're having a massive brand refresh at the moment. We're thinking about how we communicate with everybody. How do we communicate? So what we're talking about speaks to who we want to be going on to sign up. And you would be incredible as a sounding board to support and develop that message in a really meaningful and co-produced way. We have lots of projects that we might be able to collaborate on to make our mission possible. So who is Alan Nolan? So we can share this PowerPoint with you afterwards, but there is a video. I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to talk you through it. And I'm going to talk you through it because one of the things that it shows in that video that I don't think it labours the point quite enough is why we exist at Alan Nolan. So this little boy in this picture with his birthday cake, that's Anthony. Alan Nolan, the charity, was set up by his mum Shirley in the 70s because she was looking for a match for her son. Auntie had a really rare blood disorder and his only chance of survival was to have a treatment via stem cells or bone marrow. Shirley would have been told, I'm going to pick up a little bit later as well, that the people that would be able to go on to save Anthony's life would most likely be a stranger. So now we have this amazing register at Alan Nolan with nearly 1 million people on the register. We've got registers worldwide that we work with. But when Shirley was told that, there was no way in the whole of the world to actually really easily find that matching donor for Anthony. There was no register. And it's a story that we hear over and over again. And this, for me, really speaks to why you're really important. It's a mum that did something to help her child. And we hear stories throughout the work that I do of parents and grandparents really making a massive difference to their child, to others. Really sadly, Anthony didn't get his treatment and he passed away. But what it has done is left this enormous legacy that has saved millions, hundreds of millions of patients' lives all across the world. So that's why Auntie Nolan exists, and it was one woman's mission, and she's made an incredible difference to people all over the world. And that's because we make life-saving connections between patients and those strangers that are ready to donate their stem cells. But we're not just the register, we do a lot more than that. I'm so proud to work for Auntie Nolan because we've done groundbreaking research. All of our research is all around patient survival. It's all around patient treatment, and it's all around making sure that patients can be in the best position to make a full recovery. And we also provide the best care for every single patient that we work with. So primarily, what Auntie Nolan do is we provide treatments for patients that have got blood cancer. So I'm going to show you a really short video that talks about what blood cancer is.
Alan Nolan saves the lives of people with blood cancer and disorders. We stem cells to people with blood cancer and blood disorders in need of a life-saving transplant. What is blood cancer? How does it start? It's made up of different types of cells, including
Alice, could you put the volume up a bit, Alice?
cells that fight infections. These cells.
Let me pause it and get that volume up if you can't hear it very well.
All start as stem cells, which can turn into so as they divide and mature. In this process are a bunch of all blood cancers. There are three: leukemia, lymphoma, and myeloma. Different types depend on when and how problems occur. These problems often lead to the body producing large numbers of immature blood cells that can't perform their function. They can also clog up the blood wall, which prevents other types of blood cells from getting in. Unfortunately, blood cancer affects many people. Every 14 minutes, someone in the UK is told they have blood cancer. That's 105 people a day. Only some people with blood cancer will need to stem cell transplant. Usually, only for the people who've been unsuccessful. If you'd like more information or support, the Anthony Nolan Patient Services team is here for you. Visit anthonynolan.com/patients.
So I hope that volume was okay for you. Like I said, I'm not going to go into massive amounts of detail about what blood cancer is. We work with incredible partner organisations that have got a lot more information. I'm more than happy to signpost and share that information. But what's really important to know is that blood cancers exist. There's a lot of people diagnosed every day. Not all of those will need to go on and have stem cell treatment, but we need to ensure we have a really healthy, diverse register ready for people that do need to go on and have that stem cell treatment. So I'm going to start to talk to you a little bit around what that treatment involves, how that donation takes place, and who we need to be signing up. And again, I'm going to show you another video because I think interspersing what I'm talking about with real people's voices is really, really important. So I'm going to play a video from Ezra, who's going to talk to you about why he donated and how he found it. I am.
One of the reasons I became a donor was when I found out about how brain people typically struggle to get a match. And I thought if I was someone like me, or even myself, I'd be much like looking at people and register someone next. But not someone a chance of it's probably the most important thing about it. I don't think there's anything I can do in life that is that important,
So short and sweet. Ezra talks about and introduces the concept of ethnicity and white matters when we're talking about stem cell donation and people's survival. Ezra really recognised that we don't have enough diversity in our register, and we're working tirelessly to ensure that we can increase that representation. And I've got a big slide at the end, which I think it's just populated with help. And it talks about how you can potentially support us to ensure that we do create that register that's there for patients in the future. These are just some statistics that always come up when we're talking about blood cancer and blood disorders. 104 people, the video about blood cancer referenced that as well, are diagnosed with a blood cancer blood related disorder every single day. Not all of them will need a stem cell transplant. We know some of them will. One big slide on here as well is something that I always used to feel a little bit awkward about talking about, and then I've realised I've talked really proudly about how Auntie Nolan do a lot of research, and that's the slide about younger donors being associated with better survival rates, and it's why we recruit people aged 16 to 30. We know that it excludes people over the age of 30, but what we do know is that for Auntie Nolan, the majority of people that go on to provide patients with their treatment are between the ages of 16 and 30. The younger somebody is, the more likely they go on to donate. But not only that, they give that patient the best chance of life. And that's why we have our focus there. And at Auntie Nolan, that statistic there, we give 3 people a second chance of life every day. And that's because we can find them a matching donor, and we can save more lives if we have more people on the register. Also, that little slide at the bottom about the percentage of the eligible population that is on the register. In the UK, on a whole, we can do a lot better. We're at 2% of the population, and when we compare that to Germany, to Israel and to Cyprus, we're lagging behind. And the only way that we can do that is by talking about it, by me coming to talk to yourselves today, sharing it and getting more people to think about registering. So this is what happens with the donor process from when someone registers to donation. So I'm going to talk to you about this. Then I'm going to talk to you about the different types of donation and give you a little bit more detail there. But this is essentially the flow of what happens once someone's decided that they want to join the Auntie Nolan register. So they might join at an event. That might be something you can think about later if anybody would like to support us with that. They might register online. People can sign up online. It's a really straightforward process. It's an application form and it's a cheek swab. And that cheek swab gets their cells, gets their information, and it's held really securely on our database and only used for the purposes of matching them with a potential patient in need. Once that is on our register, they will get an email within 24 hours to say that they could be a match. And that's just letting them know they're on the register. That's just making sure that we've got their contact details correct, because that's really, really important. The email they might get, and not many people do get this, because actually when someone does join, it's actually really rare they will go on to donate to somebody. If they did, they will get that really special email that will say they could be a match for a patient. And then within that 24 hours, they'll be speaking to someone from Auntie Nolan who will coordinate their process. At every single stage, that person is asked if they're happy to proceed. It's even been said to me by a volunteer that came on board afterwards after they donated and said, I wasn't actually sure if you wanted me to go on to donate, because I was given an option at every single stage to say, I'm not happy with this, I'm not comfortable with this. We ensure that everybody has the full information that they need, and they're always given that option. What we really do, and this is one of the reasons why it's really important I'm talking to you and you can share this information, is we register donors that are really, really informed. They know exactly what they're signing up to. This is why it's important for you to listen and to share it. It's very rare we have people that would drop out, because we do focus that much on education. So once that person has spoken to their Auntie Nolan coordinator, they've confirmed they're happy to proceed, they would then be asked to provide some blood samples. They would go to their own GP, we'd organise all of that for them. They'd have those blood samples taken, and then within 2 to 6 days, they would be completing a medical questionnaire while we are testing their blood samples. Then when those results come back, it can be up to 8 weeks, depending on what the patient needs. But what we're doing there is we're making sure that that donor is fit and healthy and okay to go on to donate. We're ensuring that that donor is a good match for that patient. So the things that we will be looking for there are around, this is when I say I'm not a medical professional, there's our typing scientists that will do all of this work. They will look and ensure that that patient's tissue type and the donor's tissue type are a good match. And that's where ethnicity and ancestry comes in. You're more likely to be a match with someone from the same background as you. We'll be testing all of that and ensuring that that person's the best match to go on to donate for that patient. And if they are, that's when that donation process gets organised. It's always organised around the patient and the donor. Once those tests are all complete, we know that everyone's all fit and healthy. What could happen, even when someone gets through this process, is they could be told that they're actually not the best match for the patient. They might have done more tissue typing with the patient and with that donor, and actually they're not the best match. It might even be that search has been cancelled, and that could be because the patient's responded well to treatment, or it could actually mean that the patient is too poorly to receive their transplant. But that middle one, yes, they're a match, they will be going on to donate. I'm going to talk to you about the donation process now. So the what if I'm a match? So one of the massive things that we do at Auntie Nolan, it's something that comes up over and over again. And I've been here for 10 years and we've absolutely seen improvement in people's understanding of what it means to go on to donate to save someone's life that's got blood cancer. Over 90% of people that do go on to donate will donate via the bloodstream. So it's very straightforward. It's not invasive. It's a very straightforward outpatient procedure. 10% of people would go on to donate via bone marrow donation. I'm going to talk to you about both of those. So there's two ways that stem cells can be collected. So Doug here features on a lot of our promotional, his material, he's wonderful, more than happy to talk about his experiences, is Doug. And Doug donated through the bloodstream method. So he signed up, had that cheek swab, was on the Auntie Nolan register and was told that he was a match for a patient. He was found to be the best match and he went on to donate. So for Doug, for 4 days before his donation, a nurse visited him once a day and gave him a small injection. And what that did is encourage his body to produce more stem cells, send them out into the bloodstream. I don't think Doug actually said that he felt tired and achy, but some people might feel a little bit tired and achy because those stem cells are rushing through your bloodstream. But on day 5, Doug went to the hospital, gave those stem cells, involved having a needle in one arm, special machine, filtered that blood, took those stem cells. But what is really important to note that we don't take anything that that donor needs. We take the extra their bodies produce. So we don't take any blood, just those extra stem cells. I haven't got my prop with me today. I've normally got a prop and I can show you what it looks like. It's just like a pinky liquid that will go on to provide that patient their treatment. Doug's process took about 4 hours, 5 hours. Donors like Doug say it's not painful, it's a little bit tiring. The most common thing I hear is it was just a bit boring. I was sat there, I was watching Netflix, talking to people around me, and I just got a bit bored. And then what I often get is, I can't believe I said that, because me sat there being a bit bored means that someone's life was saved. It's really, really powerful what Doug did just by sat there, donating his cells. So really, really straightforward, really important. About 1 in an 800 chance you'd ever go on to donate stem cells if you'd registered when you're between the ages of 16 and 30. This is how most people go on to donate. I'm going to show you Carl here. Carl donated via the bone marrow donation method. And this is what at Auntie Nolan we always have to go some way to explain. It's actually really uncommon that people would donate in this way. But it is what people think of the most when they think about donating. So with Carl, he stayed in hospital the night before and he had a general anaesthetic before that donation process. He was asleep, didn't feel anything. Doctors used a needle and a syringe to take the stem cells directly from the back of his hip. It says indicate to audience, but you can't see me, so I'm just going to point. So I think we all know where the back of our hips are. So that was completely under anaesthetic. That process only takes about 30 minutes, but Carl stayed in hospital to get over the anaesthetic, and then he was able to go home. Carl did say, he had a bit of a sore back, felt a little bit tired, but it passed in a few days. I can't remember if it's Carl that I was talking to that said it felt like he did a deadlift at the gym, maybe play some rugby, got off a bit funny, had a bit of a twinge in his back, but nothing that couldn't be sorted through paracetamol. But whichever method you donate by, whether it's bone marrow donation or stem cells, you'd just be advised to rest for a few days. While you're doing that, those stem cells are taken to that patient, wherever they are in the world. So it's important to know that anybody that signs up, they donate over here, stem cells will go wherever they're needed in the world, and we work with registers globally. The bit at the bottom here talks about why Carl actually went on to donate, and it was because a friend of his was diagnosed with blood cancer in 2015. We find this a lot. I work with a lot of patients on patient appeals, people that want to do something. So a lot of his friends signed up, and this is really important to know. So one of the things that we do is we recognise people like Carl will sign up because it makes sense to them. They've seen someone that they know going through this, and they never want anybody to go through it. What we do know is if it doesn't speak to somebody, if it doesn't make sense, you know, if they can't see someone in their life that's ever been through this, it can be a really difficult concept to start to think about. So we're really grateful to people like Carl that come and share their stories and why they registered. We don't want to be running appeals. We want to have this really healthy register so that we can find everybody a match, but we're really grateful for people like Carl that have signed up because of one of his friends. I'm going to show you Doug on his video. I don't know if Carl features in there as well, but it's going to show you actually what donation looks like on this next slide. This is going to...
Alice, just before you press start, so I'm not sure the problem is local to me, but I couldn't hear the last two videos weren't audible enough. I'm not sure what you can do at your end to make it better.
It's as loud as it'll go for me. I can't make it any louder.
We will be, Steve, yeah, I saw that. We will be sharing this deck later anyway.
Sure.
So do we want people to pop in the chat? Could you hear it and do you want me to show it? Or should we save time and make more room for questions?
I would say let's save time because the video is not that audible.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries. No, it plays really clearly for me and there's nothing I can do to make it any louder. So I'll click on to the next slide. You can watch it in your own time. Got to promise me though, you're going to watch it in your own time if I skip it, because it has got subtitles that you could read. Got a promise? Okay,
yes.
I'll move on. Oh, I'm lying. I'm going to move on. Okay, so one of the reasons that I'm really excited to talk to you, I keep talking about this, sound like a broken record. We can't find enough donors for everybody, and we definitely can't find enough donors for people that's anything other than white Northern European. Ethnicity really, really matters. It really, really matters when we're making matches to help save people's lives that need treatment for blood cancers. So only 25% of all patients would help be able to find a sibling that was a match. And this is something that always shocks people. I know for me, I love my sister. I do absolutely anything for her. I'd give her anything she needs. But the reality is, if she needed a stem cell transplant, there's only about a 25% chance I'd be able to go on to donate to her. Even though we come from the same parents, it's just because of how our tissue types are made up and how they come together. On average, it's a 25% chance. And that's why most people find their best match from an unrelated donor, which is why I talked about why Shirley Nolan set up the anti-Nolan register, and it was to have an easy way for people to be able to identify that unrelated donor, matching on tissue types across globally, across the whole world. Talking about ethnicity and why it matters, I was involved in a really big campaign that we ran in Luton, and we were really, really lucky to have Annie as our spokesperson. Again, I'll include Annie's clip from her video when she talks about donation, but the thing that stuck out for me from Annie's story, she talks about her experience. She was 16 when she was in hospital, and as I hear from many patients, you know, you're with people, you create friends, you know, you're not going to school. Her friends were the people that she was in hospital with, and she was friends with a girl on the bed opposite her who's a white girl. Annie's South Indian, and they were both looking for a matching donor around the same time. So what happened to Annie, she was sat in a bed and she had lots of excitement coming from her friend's bedside. Really excited. They know their searches have been initiated, so they've been in contact with Anti-Nolan and the worldwide register looking at who was a match. Her friend, a white girl, came back with 4 matches. Annie, on the same day, was told there was no one. There's absolutely no one in the register anywhere in the world that was a match for her. I know Annie really well, and I've shared this so many times, and I'm still getting goose pimples and tears bricking the back of my eyes when I think about how Annie must have felt sitting there knowing there was nobody there for her. And what Annie said afterwards was that it actually felt like my life didn't matter as much as the white girls. And it's really powerful how Annie talks about it. Annie is really, really brave, and she shared her story. It has a happy ending, Annie's story. we talk about how we do a lot of research at Auntie Nolan. Annie took a massive risk with her treatment, and her dad actually donated to her, which was really, really risky. But she was really lucky. Annie's made a full recovery and is in remission, but she is so committed to making sure that no one has to sit in a hospital bed feeling that their life doesn't matter as much as someone in the bed next to them. Always shakes me talking about that. I'll show you Annie's video, and you can see her say it in her own words. But what we do know, and this is that statistic, only 37% of people from minority ethnic backgrounds find that best possible match to go on to save their life, and it's just not good enough. We need to change that. And only 15% of Auntie Nolan's register is from minority and ethnic backgrounds, and we really need to increase that. And I hope you can go some way to helping us do that, so we don't have to have people sat there like Annie feeling like that. So how do we support our donors? We support our patients. We support our patients through our patient services. We also support our donors. It can feel like quite a selfless act to sign up to the register, but people say, you know, the amazing things that it makes them feel incredible if they go on to help to save somebody's life. We absolutely support. We make sure that no one donates if they're not fit and healthy. We arrange all that donation process around the need of the patient and the donor. So we never have anyone donate if they weren't in good health. Of course, it'll take time out people's days. We can talk to employees, education establishments to ensure time off. Make sure that nobody's out of pocket. Always arrange everything, pay for everything. That's how we support. How to register. So registration is really, really simple. You can share this with your young people in your lives. We have events that are happening across the country where people actually come, be signed up by a volunteer, but they can also register online. And what we might do is we might be able to share you a specific link so we can look at the impact that you've all had in encouraging people to register. What we do hope is that this is the start of being able to talk to you and share what we're happening. I really hope that we'll be able to come back and share the impact that you've had by sharing what I've talked to you about today. So this registration form, it just asks for basic information so we can contact that person if they are a match. And then they go on to complete a cheek swab. That's sort of process at Auntie Nolan Labs. And it's really important to know, we store all of that information and it's just used for the purpose of donating stem cells. One thing we're incredibly open about is we would never, ever share that information with anybody. We legally can't do that. It's all for the purpose of donating stem cells and saving a patient's life. The only reason that that information could be used in another way is anything to Auntie Nolan, and we would absolutely always get in contact with that person if there was something that, you know, they might be really suitable for some research project, but we'd always get consent. Personal information, tissue type, data, it's all kept really securely. We legally can't share that unless it's around donation. I always labour that point because I know it can be a big concern for people. So that's kind of the end of what I'm going to talk to you about. So I've left loads of time for questions, but these are the takeaways. Help us, help us talk to the young people in your lives about what you've heard. Help us reach your networks of young people. If you're bosses of companies, we have an incredible way that we can support you to encourage to share that through your networks there. You could support us by giving time to help us sign people up to the register. There's lots of different things, but the end message is just really help us by talking about it, help us by sharing what you've heard. Ask any questions that you've got. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I really hope that this is the start of us being able to work together and increase the diversity that we have on the Auntie Nolan register and really, really save more lives.
Thank you very much. Let me just stop the recording.